I kind of wanted to do a little video on Rob Menard's peace officer thing. I know Steve here did a little video thing kind of covering it, but I kind of want to get more in depth than what Steve did and just kind of put it into it. So, well, for starters, let's start with why. Why talk about this?
Today is officially my first day of being a sovereign peace officer out in Nashville.
Police say this is Anthony Williams. In his homemade videos, he shows off his badge and handcuffs. Officers say he even made a fake law enforcement tag with a state seal. Check out his rap sheet. He's been arrested several times for impersonating a police officer.
Now, that's back in, that's down in Tennessee. Meanwhile, over in Canada, we had, back in June 2013, how many, three men copied Menard's peace officer thing and got arrested, convicted, blah, blah. Not a big deal since they only got a day in jail, but, still, now these guys have criminal records. And finally, and the most important example here, Rob Menard himself in June of 2014 got arrested for impersonating a peace officer, blah, blah. He ended up moving to Ontario now just to avoid the arrest warrants, and he's just been delaying it. But that's where the discussion starts. Why are we discussing this? Because it's getting people arrested in Canada, it's getting people arrested in Tennessee, it's getting Rob Menard himself in trouble. All because Menard came up with this ridiculous and stupid idea. So let's get into it. What is Menard's peace officer thing? Menard since the mid 2000s, and so I'm not 100% sure when it started, but basically he's been promoting the idea that anybody can be a peace officer, and telling people to you just get a little fake badge, blah blah blah, run around telling people that you're a peace officer, and that'll allow you to get away with driving without a license and the rest of the usual freeman stuff. Now, this is where I need to question Menard's, intentions, because as usual, it's not. There's a fundraising effort attached to Rob's freeman concept. It's not just putting the idea out there. Menard is out there asking for $50,000 for support with this. So there's always the question here of, does Menard really believe this stuff, or is he just doing it for 50 grand? But for the purposes of this video, let's assume Menard is being serious, just to be able to discuss the theory and the case law and the rest of it. Now, recently Menard put out this video in which he kind of goes into the, his logical arguments in support of his claim that anybody can be a peace officer. But before we get into that, it's not what he says in the video that is important. It's what he doesn't put and doesn't mention in the video that is important and is worrying. Now, back in January of this year, Rob sued, trying to get peace officer recognition from the federal court. Now, Menard does not mention this in the video, but more importantly, every argument that Menard makes in the video, Menard made in his federal lawsuit. In particular, the other persons employed, the right to employ members of the public as peace officers, and where is the other thing? And the process server argument, right there in statement of fact, line 3. Now, this is what Menard does not state. Menard lost the federal lawsuit, and we'll get into this. But the judge ruled against Menard, quote, for the reasons provided by the defendant. Now, the defendant in this case was the, here we go, the Attorney General of Canada. You know, so this is not some uneducated or ignorant position. You know, this is one of the top, I guess, legal authorities in Canada saying that what Rob is saying is wrong. Now, just to underline that point, this guy writes law school textbooks. He's been, what's the word? Worked in the Department of Justice, deputy manager, a law professor for a number of years. So this guy knows what he's talking about. And well, let's read the very basic explanation here. The very simple rebuttal. Well, okay, no, let's go back. Rob's basic argument is that there is a line in the criminal code that defines peace officers as that list on the left there, which is police constable, bailiff, constable, and there is an expanding clause, or other persons, which, per the Deputy Attorney General of Canada, was only there to expand the definition, but only applies to individuals who derive peace officer status from federal legislation. And in particular, it states a 1987 court decision that clarified the definition of peace officer, in contrary to what Menard claims, and more importantly, as part of, let me see about, and there's another important point made by the Deputy Attorney General, which is that Rob Menard's purpose behind this is to create his own police aid force that is immune from legislative control, which is something we'll get into in a minute. But everything that the Deputy Attorney General said was upheld by the court. So Rob lost. He had to pay the court costs and everything because what he said was ridiculous. So now let's look at the case law. This is R.V. Burns, 2002. You can look it up if you want. But it goes to the heart of Menard's basic argument here. Again, the line in particular that Menard is focusing on is the one that says police constable, bailiff, constable, or other persons. Now, this was discussed in R.V. Burns. Let's read what they said. Let me just highlight it for sake of clarity. Everyone referred to in the definition section other than a bailiff is patently a public or statutory officer performing public duties. There is no reason to believe that Parliament intended to include as a peace officer a person who was a private appointee performing non-public duties. This view is consistent with those expressed in, it cites a whole bunch of other previous cases in which the same situation. So, to restate that, everybody on the left side of Menard's graph is a public employee, member of the law enforcement agency, and then there's other persons. If everybody that was listed was already part of a law enforcement agency, why would the other persons suddenly do a 180-degree flip to suddenly include private people and privately appointed peace officers or security guards, for example? That interpretation doesn't make sense. So why put other persons in there at all? Well, let's look at, just as one example, the amount of ranks that exist within the RNCMP. There's a commissioner, there's a deputy commissioner, there's assistant commissioner, there's chief superintendent, there's inspector, sergeant major, sergeant, constable, corporal, what else? That's it. So, if they had stuck to this whole, okay, let's list every single peace officer in Canada, every single rank, every single position that is a peace officer, that list would go on for pages and pages. It's easier to say, okay, well, it's police constable, and blah, blah, blah. Other people like that. So maybe, like, as an example, if we were talking about a definition of cheeses, well, we'd start with, well, the definition of cheese only includes Parmesan, mozzarella, cheddar, or other comestibles. So the question would be, what would other comestibles include? Can you include, I don't know, like a sandwich? Is a sandwich cheese? Menard's argument would be, well, it says others, so why can't something else that isn't a cheese be a cheese? Well, no, because the first group of examples given were clearly only cheeses, or let's go back to the actual case. All the examples given originally listed are members of RCMP and other statutory law enforcement agencies. The other persons is just to kind of make sure you don't miss some other group. For example, there's some cases where, park rangers? I don't know what you call them. And forestry rangers are also considered peace officers in Canada. So that's why you have the other persons in there. It's not to cram in every single human being in Canada as a peace officer, as Rob claims. There's also this case, which I think is relevant. It's RV Wolver, 2011. Let's skip to the relevant. Where is it? Is it relevant? Where was it? I saw it. Here we go. Security guards are not peace officers as defined. in the criminal code and therefore do not possess the powers of arrest of peace officers. Security personnel only have the same powers of arrest as any other private citizens. Those powers are set out in Section 494. Anyone may arrest without warrant. Person who finds committing an indictable offense. Blah blah. So this is a key point here. The very fact that security guards, are not peace officers, goes to the heart of why Menard's interpretation is incorrect. The guard in front of Walmart or Walgreens is not a peace officer. He can't. He's not a peace officer. Period. That's never been an interpretation that's been supported. So, just simple logic should tell you that if Rob's interpretation is correct, then there should be no difference between Rob hiring some guy to be a peace officer and Walmart hiring somebody to be a peace officer. But let's talk about the arrest powers of private citizens, because that was a point that Steve brought up in his video, which I thought is also very important personally. And let's just use Batman as an example, just to kind of lower, just have a little bit more fun, just not to be so serious. Let's say you see somebody being mugged on the street. If you're not Batman, you have the power to intervene and use force to prevent and try to help that person. Whether that's a smart idea or not, we're not, I'm certainly not Batman, but for the sake of argument, you can use force to prevent crime. You can use force to arrest people if you catch them doing something already as a private citizen per the criminal code. You don't need to call yourself a peace officer to accomplish that. So this is a question here. Why does Rob insist on calling himself a peace officer? There's no benefit to it. You can already go around and pretend to be Batman and stop crime if you wanted to. There's nothing that would. There's nothing in the criminal code preventing that. And more to the point, there's plenty in the criminal code that would protect you if you wanted to do that. In fact, I think there's a few examples of people doing that. There's what's that group in New York? Guardian Angels. They went around arresting people and well, not arresting people, but protecting. And there was also those real life superhero things, but although that doesn't work as much. But you get the point. You can already keep and protect the peace without calling yourself a peace officer. So that's the question here, and it goes back to where was it? The point that the Deputy Attorney General pointed out, that Menard's goal in this whole peace officer thing is to create his own private police force, which is independent of Parliament and any legislative control, any whatsoever. Nobody in the community would have any recourse to put an end to it or control it or oversight to it. But more importantly, Menard's stated goals is to intervene and obstruct real cops from doing their jobs, which is in addition to all the legal and just kind of logical reasons for why his position is wrong, the mere fact that he's trying to create his own police force for the purpose of obstructing real police officers means that his position is never going to be successful in court. You're not going to be able to convince a judge that, hey, let me go around obstructing cops and telling them, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, that's just not something that's going to be successful in court, period. So, I guess to recap, Rob's argument here that other persons can include Rob, blah, 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 is wrong. And we've seen the case law in support of it. It's already been decided by a court that his interpretation is incorrect. His incorrect interpretation is getting Rob thrown in jail, it's getting other people thrown in jail, and it's causing real damage. But despite knowing that, Rob is still out there raising money off it, which is a real sick and offensive part of all this, is that Rob is getting people thrown in jail and making money off it. I mean, if that isn't worth getting upset about, then what is, you know?